So it's the morning of September 11th, 2001. The world is watching smoke just pouring from the North Tower of the World Trade Center, and pretty much everyone is thinking the same thing. This is a terrible, isolated accident. But what they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that high above, a second tragedy was already in motion. In this explainer, we're going to walk through the absolutely harrowing, human story of United Airlines Flight 175. We're going to piece it all together through the voices of those who were actually there.
17 minutes. That's it. That's how much time passed between the first tower being hit and the second. And in those 17 minutes, everything changed. Confusion turned into sheer terror, and history was altered forever. All seen through the eyes of the passengers, the crew, and the air traffic controllers who were all connected to this one single flight.
Subscribe to the Hub of Crime Analysis.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. It all started as a completely normal Tuesday morning at Boston's Logan Airport. Flight 175 was just your average, routine transcontinental flight, headed for Los Angeles. People were getting on, settling into their seats, probably thinking about the business meetings or family reunions waiting for them out on the West Coast. Just another day. Among the crew that day was a flight attendant named Robert Fangman. He was actually running a little late and almost missed the whole thing. His family would later say he used to jump on and off planes like we'd jump on a bus. He had even taken a big pay cut just to do this job because he genuinely loved it. He loved meeting people.
Also getting settled on board was the Hansen family. You have Peter, a marketing executive, his wife Sue, and their little girl Christine, who was only 2.5. They were heading out for a vacation to see family, and for little Christine, this was her very first time on an airplane.
And then there was Brian Sweeney. He was 38, a former Navy Top Gun pilot who is now a defense contractor. For him, this flight to LA was just another business trip, one he'd made countless times. In fact, his last words to his wife that morning were so simple, so routine. I love you, and I'll see you Thursday.
But there was another group boarding that plane, and they had a meticulously planned, commando-style operation in mind. The 5 hijackers, well, they didn't all sit together, no. Instead, they were strategically placed throughout first and business class, which put them all just a few feet away from that cockpit door.
So Flight 175 takes off, starts its climb, and at that very moment, a crisis is already unfolding miles away. Over at the Boston Air Traffic Control Center, controllers are desperately trying to get a hold of another flight that had left just before them, American Airlines Flight 11. It had just gone completely silent, radio silent.
So, what's a transponder? Well, you can think of it like the plane's electronic heartbeat. It's constantly broadcasting who the plane is, where it is, and how high it's flying. And at 8:21 a.m., the transponder on American 11 was just shut off. For an air traffic controller, that's not just a red flag, that is an absolute nightmare scenario.
And then, a voice crackled over the radio. It was Mohammed Atta, the hijacker piloting American 11. Now, he thought he was talking to the passengers on his plane, but he had actually keyed the microphone on the open air traffic control frequency. And here's the critical part. The pilots of United 175, they were on that same frequency. They heard every word.
So, just minutes after American 11 slams into the North Tower, and remember, most people on the ground don't even know what's happened yet, the hijackers on United 175 make their move, and the terror begins.
The timeline here is it's chillingly fast. At 8:41, you have a totally routine communication. Just 6 minutes later, right as the North Tower is being hit, the transponder code on Flight 175 is suddenly changed. And then, at 8:51, the plane just banks hard left, completely abandoning its course to LA and pointing straight for New York City.
Over at the New York Control Center, a controller named Dave Bottiglia saw that code change happen in real time. He got on the radio immediately. United 175 recycle transponder. Nothing. Just static. And right then and there, he knew he might have just lost a second plane. Okay, so with the hijackers now in control of the cockpit, the passengers and crew in the back of the plane, they knew something was terribly, terribly wrong. And in their final minutes, with what I can only describe as incredible courage, several of them reached for those cabin earphones to say goodbye.
At 8:52 a.m., Peter Hansen, the father on vacation with his family, he managed to get through to his own dad, Lee.
His voice was calm but firm as he relayed this horrifying situation. He said the plane is acting funny and told his dad he thought a flight attendant had been stabbed and that the hijackers were in the cockpit.
Just 7 minutes after that, Brian Sweeney, the former Navy pilot, he called his wife Julie and left a message on their answering machine. His voice, which was captured on that recording, it's just this incredible testament to his composure in a situation that is truly unimaginable. A final, clear, and loving farewell.
Now, while these calls are being made, that hijacked 767 is just screaming towards lower Manhattan. The hijacker at the controls, Marwan al-Shehi, he's pushing the aircraft into a maneuver that no commercial airliner is ever designed to perform.
To put this into perspective for you, a normal, gentle descent for an airliner is maybe about 2,000 feet per minute. In its final moments, Flight 175 was dropping at a rate of 10,000 feet per minute. The controllers watching their screens in disbelief just started calling it a power dive. For the people on board, the G-forces must have been just unbearable. And in that final moment, you have these two completely different realities happening at the exact same time. In an office on the 81st floor of the South Tower, a man named Stanley Primneth looks up from his desk to see the nose of a Boeing 767 coming right at him. And at that same instant, miles away, an air traffic controller is just a voice, helplessly counting down the plane's altitude on his screen.
Right before impact, Peter Hansen was somehow still on the phone with his father. And as his dad, Lee, is watching the live news coverage on TV, he sees a second plane hit the towers. At that exact, gut-wrenching second, he hears his own son say, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And then the line went dead.
It's 9:03 a.m. With that second impact broadcast live to the entire world, the horrifying truth just became undeniable. This wasn't some tragic accident. This was a coordinated attack.
You know, one of the controllers described what it was like in the room when that second plane hit. This entire, bustling control center, full of professionals trained for pure chaos, fell into absolute stunned silence. As he put it, not one word was said. The possibility they had all been dreading for 17 minutes, well, it was now a reality.
And the response was immediate. The FAA made this completely unprecedented decision to ground every single aircraft in U.S. airspace. That's about 4,500 commercial and private planes, all ordered to land. And meanwhile, those F-15 fighter jets that had been scrambled, they were still over 100 miles away. They were close enough to see the smoke, but just too late to do anything. You know, the story of Flight 175 is really a story of individual lives, all just caught in this terrible cross-current of history. It's the story of a flight attendant who loved his job, a family on vacation, a businessman saying one last goodbye. Their stories and the words of the people they left behind, like Peter Hansen's father, they're just such a powerful reminder. In those 17 minutes, 65 people aboard Flight 175, passengers and crew alike, faced an absolutely unthinkable reality with so much courage, and in so many cases, with love as their very final message. Their story is such a vital part of the history of that day, and it's one we just have to make sure is never forgotten.
The home of crime and